Mim.
Hiya. I'm all right. We've already had a bit of a preamble about the state of our lives and just how like knackered we are, or like dazed and confused we are. But
I think it's lockdown drained.
Fatigue, yeah.
Yeah. Just we've come too accustomed to this little cloudy life. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm all right. What about you?
Yeah, I'm not bad. I had a bit of a pamper morning. I put on some false nails.
Oh, I've been meaning to ask you about that. Do you do press-ons?
I don't normally. I would normally get extensions at a nail salon.
Okay. I'm
not blessed with long nails. Okay. I'm not like that. They break. I do a lot of cooking and stuff like that. Like I just like having stronger, bulletproof nails. Mm-hmm. And I've let my nails have a little breather, but yeah, I just thought I've got press-ons now, but press-ons like they often fall off, like they're not as good. But yeah, I just thought, you know what, I need to paint my toenails, I need to do nails, and just like the little things like that just help you feel a little bit more.
Yeah, it's together. True, and I feel like it gets me ready for the next week.
Yeah, like, and so then I imagine like this like coming week, I make more of an effort, you know, because I've got my nails done.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes me sound super girly. I'm also just not. I don't know. But yes, and then I've also Line of Duty is coming back. I don't know if you're a Line of Duty fan.
I started watching it because I've been told by many people how amazing it is, and I never actually like watched it all the way through. But
I've rewatched it nearly all the way through this week.
Really? I think I
binge watching it. So I've been really enjoying that. So that's been my dedication for this week.
Cool. Oh, we are in this household. We are watching Drive to Survive on Netflix.
I've never heard of this.
Oh my god, no! I think it's like kind of niche. It's this. It's this documentary style series based on Formula One racing. And it's really good. I think you would like it because, like, I don't know if this is true, but I feel like your dad would have been one of those guys who watched one on a Sunday.
Every Sunday.
Okay.
Formula One was on.
So you have that
I loved Michael Schumacher. Like, I have a Ferrari cap somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So you'll kind of like get it. But this is like taking you behind the scenes of like the team, like what are they called? Premiers or primaries or something like that. The team like managed like the team, and the drivers, and then the rivalry between the teams, and like teams being bought by other people, other billionaires, and it's drama. Yeah. So new series came out yesterday. Yeah, so we've been watching it.
Love it. I love it. Do you have a fashion story this week?
Yeah, I do. And it's not really a story. It's more of like a bit of a moan.
Oh, mine's a moan as well.
Oh, is it? Oh my God. The tone of this episode has been a downer. But yeah, I am going to moan about this because this is 2021 and this is a year of online shopping, of course. Mm-hmm. And I just can't understand why like a multinational company, a big old company, a very famous brand that I've recently ordered from, can't get their deliveries in order. So I've been waiting for this thing for so long. So I ordered 3 items, which I'm very excited for. 2 of them are jackets, one of which happens to be a varsity jacket. It's like the leather sleeves and like the felt front, whatever. And then the second one is like the semi-padded sports jacket, whatever. And then a hoodie. And I ordered it on the 15th of this month. No, not the 15th. I think it was the 5th. Anyway, it began with a 5, which is, and it was the 5th because thinking about what today's date is. So a long time ago. And literally for 2 weeks, my order was saying that it was still in process, even though I had order confirmation email to say what I bought. So it's still in process. Reached out to customer care a number of times, and they said that there was something wrong with a number of orders and discount codes being applied, because I bought it in like this promotional thing they had running, and some people had been adding discount codes to the already discounted products. I wasn't doing that because I know how this works. And I was like to them, well, that's got nothing to do with me, mate. Send me my stuff. And they wouldn't tell me when it was going to arrive. So, and they were making it sound like they don't know whether or not my stuff will be shipped. And I was like, hold on, guys. You're going to ship my stuff because I want this stuff.
This is like a full circle moment for you, that people used to badger you for stuff, you know?
Yeah, but at least I felt like when I was in customer care for online orders, like one of the main things is you have to come with solutions.
Yeah,
you come with answers.
Whether or not it's them annoyingly being like, you're not going to get it for another 2 weeks, like, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
just need to be told. You don't know if it's arriving tomorrow, like, you know.
Yeah. So I was in the dark about it. I was like, this isn't fair. I shouldn't be penalized for something other people have done. And just because it was Mother's Day recently, and you had this promotion on, and you can't handle dispatching orders, not my problem, mate. So I finally got an email. Actually, my mum and I, we both ordered stuff like on the same day. So she's waiting for hers. I'm waiting for mine. We both got emails to say it's on its way. I was like, oh, thank God. Clicked on the email, clicked on the track, and it says estimated delivery date is the 19th. Bearing in mind, I ordered this stuff on the 5th, yeah? So the 19th. But I was like, you know what? It's 2 days away. I can live with that. 19th comes around. And it's still telling me that DPD will notify me once they have it in their presence in the UK. And I was like, is this Brexit kicking in? Because I want my stuff. So all of 19th went past, got no text or anything from DPD saying they even had it. It was even out for delivery or anything like that. And it is, what's today's date? The 20th. All DPD is telling me is that there's a delay in them dispatching it from one of their depots in, like, I don't know, Midlands somewhere. And I'm just like, dude, like, how hard is it to deliver 3 items?
You know what? I think we're so spoiled with how fast deliveries can be. But like that is slow. And also just like, I think just honesty sometimes of like, you're going to be annoyed regardless if it takes 2 weeks. But if someone's like just being like, look, there's been a mess up on our sides, we're really sorry about it, you're not going to get it for like another 2 weeks or whatever. You just like you have to accept it regardless. But
yeah, exactly. Like I've ordered recently a few weeks ago, I think. Yeah, it's been a while now. I ordered a hat from this really cool company called Lack of Color, and they have all these like hats, and like a lot of them are quite like cowboyish, Western. I love them. They're like felt hats. They're amazing. Anyway, they come from Australia, and I knew that was going to take a little while, but that actually arrived a day before I thought it was going to come. So these things can be done. Yeah. And when this thing is coming from Europe, you have no excuse. I have to admit, I am really spoiled, but I just know how these things work, and I just feel like you have to like rise to the occasion. You have to. You can't really, in this day and age, your like dispatch system and delivery and all of that has to be on point. Otherwise, you're just going to lose customers now.
So true.
What's your fashion story?
So it doesn't really involve fashion, but I feel like it's got under my skin. And I just have to share it. So this is a slightly old stat, but I was listening to an audiobook this week, How to Fail by Elizabeth Day.
Okay.
I really enjoy her podcast series. And basically, female CEOs on the FTSE 100 are outnumbered by men called David. So there are more David CEOs on the FTSE 100 than there are women.
Oh.
And it's been a bad few weeks for women in this country, in the world.
Yeah.
I was livid. I was so angry that there are so few women that and also there are more men called Steve. And I was just like, we need to change this.
Yeah.
And I was just so annoyed, and it just got me thinking about how like there's something really bizarre. I actually was saying it to my dad, and he was like, yeah, that's horrible, that's terrible, you've got to do something about it. Love my dad. But then we were saying like even things that are deemed feminine, like types of work or types of activities like cooking, most chefs are men.
Yeah.
Fashion designers, most of them men.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's such a weird thing that like, for whatever reason, I'm sure there's more things than it being about sexism.
Oh, I think
that there's roles of women having children, there's all of that stuff, whatever. But yeah, it shook me to my core. I was really annoyed about it. I'm still really annoyed about it. And this was a stat that was true in 2019. I'm pretty sure it's the
same thing. Yeah.
It's still the same, but there are a few more women since then. But like, essentially, there's not enough if there's just one name.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, when it comes to TV chefs or chefs in general being men, but yet women make up for the workforce to do the most domesticated, unpaid labor. That's really what it stems from. Women will do labor that is unpaid and undervalued in that sense. But men get to do the role that is paid. Is exalted and seen as like high standing or like high powered and things like that. And it's like, I'm sure Gordon Ramsay's dad never cooked that much, and his mum and then so that sort of trend, I do think it plays out in a lot of industries, and we see it a lot in the fashion industry as well.
But there's been quite a lot of controversy sort of around whether male designers actually have the right eye for women, because typically actually, I don't know if they're always gay. I mean, obviously they're not always gay, but typically men in fashion tend to be gay or a little bit more less on the masculine side of life. And so there's a lot of people who think like that a gay designer will like design for like them if they were a woman, or like their idea of a woman. And there's like a lot of thing of like, how can a man design? Like, there's been a few articles that I've seen about people being like, you're designing for not real women.
That term "real women" is a dangerous one, though. I'm not a fan of
and
this,
also,
like, real anything.
I also think it's dangerous to claim that someone can't do a man can't design clothes for a woman, because I used to design clothes for men at uni, and I would never be wearing them, but like like, I don't know, it's a tough one.
It is. And it's also that argument of like, not saying that I believe this, but there is an argument of beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's like the outward gaze constructs what is deemed as beautiful in that sense. But let's be honest, there are women out there who dress for the attention of men, and I'm not making a judgment about that. We've all done it.
If that's what you want to do, then like go
at some point in our life. We have all done it. We've all gone to a club with 6-inch heels, not because necessarily like it's the most practical shoe.
No, but you've definitely been like, oh, so and so might be there, I'm gonna make sure I look good.
Yeah, exactly. And so there are still grown women who enjoy that sort of attention or look or whatever, and then you have women who don't enjoy that at all, and maybe go as far to say that they go out of their way to not play into that like stereotypical women dressing in a way that men will find sexy. So I don't know, it's like, if you don't like someone's designs and you think that a woman designs better for women, then support female brands. It's a big discussion though.
But we need just to get more women in power.
And stop calling your kids Dave.
Both, yeah. Who's David?
Whichever one's first.
We interrupt this broadcast to remind you, go follow us on Instagram, Style Over Substance Pod. Shoot us an email, styleoversubstancepeak@gmail.com. Find us on YouTube, find us on Twitter. We've got all the links on our Instagram. You know what to do.
But yes, this week we have a topic for you guys where we're discussing basically fakes and counterfeits, how we personally feel about them, whether they're legal, whether they're allowed, how you can maybe try and prevent that happening if you're a designer, and just about fakes culture, really.
Yeah, it's such a big topic, and we hope we do it justice, because it is so massive, and it really touches on a whole host of things when it comes to fashion and like just commerce as a whole. But we thought it'd be interesting. But I do have a question for you, Scarlett, to start it off. Have you ever owned a fake? Where'd you get it from? What was it? Tell me.
I have maybe owned 2. So one, my brother bought me back from like Thailand. It was a mulberry, like a beautiful leather mulberry Bayswater copy. And well, I guess it's not a copy. And then I think I bought on like one of the stands on Oxford Street a Marc Jacobs quilted, like that had a frame bag. It was a lime green. And I'm not a fan of colour, so I don't really know where I got that from. So I had that. And so those have been my 2 fakes. I don't own either of them now. They're probably somewhere at my parents' house. But yeah, I have owned them. And
how do you feel about, what's your view on counterfeits, dupes as well? Because I feel like that's another facet to the whole fakes discussion. What's your view?
So yeah, there's a very, I mean, it's not a thin line. It's quite like important to distinguish that a copy is when, or like counterfeiting something is when you're literally putting a company's logo on something that they didn't make. So that is literally like putting the double C's on a black quilted flap bag and claiming like, well, or just pretending it's Chanel. So there's that side of things where you're actually trying to con people into thinking it's Chanel. Then there's those market stalls, or now they're online everywhere, like that just are ripping off designs. And then there's the nods. It's a nod to a design, but you haven't put that company's logo on. So I'm really not a big fan of counterfeits, just having worked, especially in the design side of things. You work so hard to get to that final point that actually there's something really, really frustrating if somebody copies that. Obviously it's meant to be a compliment, but ultimately it's just not right. We've all owned one, we've all whatever. But yeah, I struggle with that. And I even do struggle with the copy sort of culture that happens, that trickles down, that we've spoken about before in fast fashion, that Zara will copy some Yeezys or whatever. And like someone's worked hard on that. Like someone's like, that's been somebody's kind of graft. And, you know, there's enough creativity out there. But I understand why it happens, but like when you actually think about it, it's a really bad thing. So back at you, Mim. Have you owned a fake? And like, what are your thoughts on it all?
So yeah, I have owned a fake, and I remember getting it very clearly. So I got it in the good old Marbella.
Hey.
It was, and there was a street market, and it was this market that we used to go to. Like, it used to come out like every other week, and it was this massive street market, and like locals and a lot of tourists used to go. Because it was good. It was like you could get home stuff and fakes and whatnot. And this was a Prada kind of top handle, really structured bag. And it had like all these like crystal embellishment things on it. And it was green. It was really obnoxious. and and like I didn't spend a lot of money on it. I want to say it was like 40 euros. And it was a bag.
But that's not cheap.
It's not cheap. No. It's not cheap, but this item was definitely...
But it wasn't going to fall apart in 2 days either, type thing, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It was not the sort of bag that I could just casually carry around. It was very like a retro type of glamour bag, whatever. And the stalls there, they sold a lot of counterfeit stuff. And they were definitely like, with no shame, selling you fakes with the logos, with the inside logo to make it look like it's authentic. And, you know, some places will go as far to have like fake authentication codes to make it seem legit and all this stuff. And yeah, so I have had one. And do I regret it? I don't regret it because it wasn't really that, like, it was 40 euros. But would I do it again? No. And I think both of us have lived through a time when, you know, we've spoken before about Burberry and how, like, when we were younger, there were a lot of counterfeit Burberry items and it was seen as chavvy and it was seen as this and that. And then so kind of buying into counterfeit goods or fakes was seen as like a faux pas almost. It was like,
for sure.
And then we lived through a period of time where logo and logomania wasn't really a big deal. Things were a lot more mellow and like understated. And I think only now, or in recent years, where logomania and brands and luxury goods are more seen by the masses, that we've already established a point of view that's like, no, counterfeits aren't for me. If I want that item, I'll wait my turn to get it. I'll buy it pre-loved, which is a really viable option now, but even then it's a bit of a dodgy market, the pre-loved online sell thing. Or we'll just buy it when we can afford the real thing. Yeah, counterfeits are bad because essentially these guys are trying to profit off of someone else's design and marketing and reputation, most importantly, to get a higher price, because they could sell a similar design bag without the logos and it would still be, it could still be a nice leather bag and people would still buy it. But because they want that higher price, they want to be able to like not sell this bag for £100 because it's nice and it's leather and it's decent, but they want to be able to sell it for 500, 600, 1,000, 2,000. And in the case of fake Hermes bags, like 10 grand.
Yeah.
That's what I don't like about it. It's like, that bag would be fine if it wasn't such an egregious, you know, like basically fraud. Like someone's out there trying to pretend
it's
to
totally illegal to even just be the market stall, but for sure when you're, but like also the market stall isn't like pretending that they're a Chanel shop or an Hermes shop or a Fendi Prada shop. They're being quite, like you said, they're just like being really brazen with this is what we do. So like, when people try and sell stuff like that for a crazy price, it's just like mental. And I guess the only way to try and not get one of those bags is just to always go through a reputable site.
Like the actual man. But that's the thing, like, do you remember it used to be called like, oh, it just fell off the back of a truck? So it was like, this was stolen. But you'd be like, oh, but it's real. Now it's there's such high quality fakes.
Oh, for sure, because we now know all the authentication techniques that Chanel use, that they've got that code number that you can search, like they can make it down to a T, like what you want to know. And it's really hard as a lay person. I wouldn't know what to look out for fakes necessarily, and I've worked like inside of it all.
Yeah, because I have some stories and some stats later on regarding these like superior fakes, but like every brand has their own version of authentication. Some of them are obvious, like the code inside the bag, let's say, and the card that comes along with it, and someone sells you the bag with the receipt, so you know it's legit, sort of thing. But then you've got companies like Chanel and Hermes, and they only use certain fabrics and they only use certain colors, and the stitching is done in a certain way, and it's like unless you work for that company and you work in the workshop, you're not going to know. And especially if it's like your first Chanel bag, let's say, you've never owned one before.
Yeah.
You don't know. Like, so for me, dupes aren't that bad. And I respect the idea of, you know, someone has designed it, but everything in life at this point is has an influence from somewhere else.
And has existed before. And to be honest, when you are even designing, you're looking at other bags. Like I talk about bags because obviously that's what I know, but you're looking at that other bags for inspiration. So like you said, everything comes from somewhere, and you know, there's a reason certain bags don't exist, because these wild, crazy things, there's a reason most bags are rectangular. Like there's a reason, like you're never going to reinvent like some hexagon bag, you know, like there's a reason. Like they have to be practical and they have to be functional, but also look nice and like whatever.
We also have to remember, again, we'll get more like when we get into the depth and breadth of this conversation, but it's when we talk about losses that a brand might face off the back of counterfeit goods somewhere in another part of the world, whatever, we also have to factor in that, okay, say there's like 1,000 people in Thailand buying fakes. Those 1,000 people were never going to go into, they weren't going to walk into the Fendi shop and buy the real thing for 10 times, 50 times the amount that they got it, you know, off eBay or on the high street or something like that. So that's what dupes do. They allow the masses to indulge in fashion, design-led fashion. And like I talk about all the time, I shop a lot in Zara. And I remember thinking when Zara first became big, it was like, wow, this stuff is actually genuinely cool. And I'm not paying an arm and a leg for it. Or like how Topshop used to be. It was like stuff that like Kate Moss used to wear.
Yeah.
That you could actually buy for £40. Yeah. And you were like, wow, if this was designer and it had a logo on it, I would never be able to afford this. I'd just be living in tracksuits for the rest of my life.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, they're not ever really doing it too subtly either. Like it's always quite clear when like copying's like really going on. So I think there's almost something that's kind of transparent when that comes about. But like one thing that I think a lot of people kind of tell themselves sometimes when they are maybe buying the counterfeits on like a market stall or whatever, it's like, oh, those companies have enough money, like you know, they don't need my money and all this stuff. Fashion brands are not wealthy for the most part. Like there aren't big margins in all of that stuff, well, in clothing in particular. And then secondly, if they're what these people are doing is essentially what, like, it's the same as fashion. You're giving money to somebody, and you, like, in an article I read, it was claiming these people are like normally part of like crime rings. And that might not necessarily be true. I feel reluctant to want to like group these stalls people together. But that they're saying like this sort of illegal activity tends to go part and parcel with other forms of like somewhat illegal activity, whatever that might be,
or like dangerous activity.
Like can be a part of that. So actually you kind of maybe thinking you're having like this statement of not supporting a brand. You're supporting like a criminal or whatever. But yeah, I think that it's a really fine line with copying. So basically, the reason copying can happen in fashion is that you can't protect like the aesthetic of an item.
Okay.
So you can't copyright a white shirt. You can copyright whatever logo you put on that shirt. You can copyright
maybe like a print.
Print as well. So yeah, that it's really hard because obviously one designer can't have ownership of a shirt, like that's outrageous. So that's why logo mania has taken off so much, is that the main way for someone to not copy your design. So like at the moment, like there was a real like era of the camera bag where a company would probably do a bit of quilting or whatever and then just stick their logo on it. Most companies have some form of a flat bag, again, probably got a bit of quilting on it, like, and they've put their logo on it. None of it's really that like inventive necessarily. They've all got kind of more of an executive tote that's sort of like that conventional woman in the city work bag, just with their logos on. Like there's nothing sort of that inventive, but that's the main way to protect a design. But yeah, it's just kind of crazy that I understand why there isn't more that you can protect, because like I said, you can't have ownership of a white shirt, but it's also really like hard for designers to try and like capture their designs in a way that prevents Zara or Forever 21 and the likes of people copying it. And so it's kind of wild.
It is wild. Like on the very top level thoughts of like the impact it has on brands, and this can happen whether you're this massive LVMH type conglomerate and you've got all the money in the world, or you can be like a cult Gaia who had like that one it bag for the season and they were a very small brand, and off the back of that one item that got really popular, you now find that loads of people are doing copies of that one thing that you yourself just designed. It can really ruin a brand's reputation. And what that kind of means is that people no longer feel the need to spend the money that you're demanding for your design with you. They can get it anywhere and get that same look.
So like say if we weren't so opposed to getting a Chanel off of Dave, CEO Dave down the street,
the CEO of a white t-shirt. He's also got the copyright for a white t-shirt.
So you want to get a copy of Chanel, but so then that, if you're comfortable with that means then you've stopped that saving fund that you've got in your head to save up for whatever this product is that you're lusting after. And yes, you might not be Chanel, whoever's most loyal customer, but you're still taking away a customer. And also what's kind of more damaging are when people are selling the fakes for like what you think would be the price of a pre-loved item or whatever it may be. There's no, they haven't done sort of all the rigmarole that a brand would do. So like say you're buying a bag off of Prada, that they have thought and ethically sourced the leather, the dye, to make sure it's not harmful for people's skin if it's being worn like next to your skin. Say you buy a pair of shoes, the dye on those shoes, they've tested it to make sure it doesn't react with people's skin. But this isn't done if you bought a counterfeit pair of shoes and you put them on
and they
break, or they can give you an infection or a rash because they've just spray painted them or whatever it might be. Like that's so damaging, because like that could ruin, say you then still don't realize it's a fake, and I go, hey Mim, I bought some Prada shoes, don't buy anything from Prada, they gave me a rash. And that's all you have to do to be like, Because you're not going to go, there. Are you sure that was real Prada? Like, you're never going to ask me that. If I'm telling you I bought something from Prada, you're going to believe me.
Yeah. And so that quality assurance is not going to be there. And, you know, like, I am far more likely to buy like a bag or something that's fake than I would ever buy. Like, let's remember, you get designer makeup and perfume and things that go on your skin, as you said, and that's really dodge.
A fake MAC eyeshadow off of eBay.
Oh yeah,
and it was tragic. And also, then like, you're putting that on your face.
Yeah,
like that's going on your face, and like fake perfumes and stuff like that. Like, you're spraying that on your body.
Yeah.
Like, it's so damaging. It's so bad.
But then it can, like, the repercussions of that will trickle down onto regular people like you and me. Like, if you have a real Chanel bag and I have a fake, when you come to sell your Chanel bag, because there's so many Chanel bags on the market now, perceived Chanel bags, the resale value for you is not going to be as good as it would otherwise, because there's just, the market is flooded with this stuff, and the perceived quality of this stuff is bringing down what you already own as a customer. It's not just about the brand itself. But yeah, really, really crazy. But did you know that this is, you know, obviously according to like reports and things, I don't know how accurate it is, but about 80% of counterfeit market does originate in China.
Wow. Well, to be honest, so much gets made there. That's crazy. And you know what? I do believe that, because a brand I used to work for there was like a Chinese Instagram handle that was just selling pure copies, just like unapologetic,
because they're so close to the actual factories.
Yeah, and actually we didn't obviously have our factories out there, but they just have the capacity for it. They have the production sort of systems in place. And actually I have a really funny story of that same company I worked for. We used to offer sort of replacement straps or like repairs. If your bag had been damaged, we would try and make sure we could get that sorted. If maybe some of your hardware had come off, we'd help to get that back on, whatever. And someone sent us a fake to repair. And it was so clearly a fake to, like, all of us. We even checked it like with the guys that worked in finance, who probably wouldn't like be that attuned with like our hardware or our leathers, and they could see it just like plain as day.
Oh, bless her.
And so like we almost were just like, it's so clearly a fake, so do you know that you're doing that, and you're almost wanting us to replace this bag, or like, which we would never have done anyway?
Or is it an innocent mistake?
Or is it genuinely an innocent mistake, and we've just sort of like, this poor person thought they had bought like an authentic bag? I don't know, it's crazy. And it was a quality that, to be honest, I would associate with sort of Chinese manufacturing and all of that kind of a thing, that like Chinese factories in the fashion business especially have just like a notoriety for like, oh, you're not going to get it right within a few tries. You're going to have like the amount of times you'll send back and forth your prototypes to get it actually how you want.
Okay.
You have to like sit there and hold their hands, just because they're not used to quality. I think it's more that like they'll make something, but if you want that finesse, that takes a real amount of time, because they're used to mass producing. That's what their factories are built for. But yes, like being sent one and seeing it and just seeing how poor the imitation is. And like, I've seen other imitations of these bags around that are like accessorizers, done like nods to the bags and whatever. But it's just crazy when you do see stuff like that. And so this brand that I worked for wasn't into logos. There were no outward logos on the bags, and it was the design of particular elements of the bag that you would identify with them. And so then if someone like Accessorize copies them, you see that quick like notable thing, and you're like, oh, is that and then you're like, it's not. But you like associate with it, and because they haven't put a logo on the bag, it's much easier to imitate as well. So I was gonna read some of my sort of where counterfeiting has gone wrong sort of stories that I found during my research, where like one of the problems is, like we said, about quality. So for instance as well, you could be buying a faux fur item, but it's not faux. Like,
yeah,
it's so possible things could be non-allergenic, as we discussed. So back in 2015, a fake NutriBullet exploded after 4 seconds of use.
Oh no, that's really dangerous.
And so like, just because you're getting a product for less or half price, like it actually could be really damaging. Like it could harm you. Like, I think it's something that, like, I'm definitely somebody where, whether it's a good thing or not, I would rather spend more money on a quality product. I've sort of always been that way. If it comes to like technology or whatever, like I'm not in the business just to get the cheapest as chips thing. I think you often will pay for quality and things. Like, no, I won't necessarily do that just to get the most expensive white t-shirt, but like there are certain things that like you have to question why you're spending such small amounts of money on it. But yeah, it's just something where you have to ensure that where you're buying from is reputable. It's difficult to tell sometimes when it comes to websites. Some websites look dodgy as hell and some are really convincing. You know, there's these phishing emails now that like can be as convincing as anything.
Yeah, so that brings up a good point, because, you know, the thing that I no longer want to mention, but that thing that's been happening for the past year and some change. We have seen across a number of industries, fraudsters and cons and things like that have just been more and more prevalent. You know, everyone's had a few texts from their bank saying you need to authenticate this, that, and the other. And, you know, counterfeit luxury fashion is no different. So this thing that we're living through has weakened the fashion industry. We can't go into shops. A lot of the smaller fashion brands don't have the e-commerce and logistics to be shipping out
a
lot. Yeah, in the context of like how much fashion businesses are struggling at the moment. What we're seeing, and obviously because people are just earning less right now on a whole, people are turning towards cheaper options, going on pre-loved websites and finding that they can, this thing seems secondhand, I can buy that instead, not realizing that it's counterfeit. And so these counterfeit operations are just blowing up at the moment. And at the same time, while these brands are losing money at a time like this, they don't have the funds to like prosecute and hunt out these manufacturers in other countries who are producing counterfeit goods. They can't go after them. So that goes hand in hand.
It's really hard to. It involves a legal suit. And because you only have to change, I think it's 7 things in a design to make it not a copy. That can literally be the color. It could be like the stitching. It can be such small things. And also ultimately, and like in most things, when it comes to a legal case, the person with the most amount of money is probably gonna win.
Exactly. And then you're also dealing with a legal system in another country potentially.
A
whole minefield, especially when we talk about China. I mean, they operate in a different system to most European countries, let's say. So that is like another hill to climb.
And it's also quite hard to get a lawsuit that applies worldwide. It's normally country sort of focused of where that law is put in or where that lawsuit is filed. But what I think also adds to this culture you've just been talking about is, we've mentioned it before, but not a day goes by where I do not have my Instagram feed flooded with people owning just more and more designer bags. Like the influencers I see, like even during lockdown, they're still buying their Chanel bags, they're still buying their new seasonal goods. And so we're still being flooded with even like our sort of like our colleagues, our kind of peers owning things, or that's what they're prioritizing. I think our generation doesn't suffer from it as badly as sort of like Gen Z, where
it's like keeping up with the Joneses, essentially.
It's for sure such a status thing. And so that then, like, you're seeing your mates owning that, but your parents aren't going to give you enough pocket money to buy that. So you're going to maybe go on a pretty little thing and buy the next best thing, or I don't even know where you would buy like counterfeit stuff online, but like I'm sure you can search for it. And you're going to do it, like, because it's really hard to be young and, you know, you want to keep up with your friends.
And also trends move so quickly that today it's the Dior Bobby bag and tomorrow it's a Bottega Veneta padded camera bag or whatever. And it's like, if you are a person who follows fashion and it's really important to you and that gets to the core of you and you feel like you need to be up with the times, then you can't be putting down £2,000-3,000 every month on just a bag. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, so recently, last year in September, Shanghai police unveiled a counterfeit bust that resulted in 62 arrests and a seizure of 32 pieces of manufacturing equipment and bags and materials worth of $14.6 million of last year, like towards the end of like the final quarter of last year.
Bags and materials. Do you know how much that's got to be?
Yeah,
they're sitting on, whether it's leather or not, like.
Yeah, so the other part of that story is that a Louis Vuitton shop assistant was caught up in all of this because they were passing new models of the latest LV bag to these manufacturers. I'm sure they were getting paid. And then these manufacturers would make and release these bags sometimes the same time as Louis Vuitton or before. So they were doing like forward releases of these new LV stuff. So they were obviously producing really high quality, really believable pieces of Louis Vuitton. And that's why, I mean, the bags and the materials alone was worth almost $15 million because it was like, they were trying to be the real deal. And so that is a case of where we see Louis Vuitton, they have the resources to keep on top of these like operations that pop up and to be able to prosecute in another country as well. And it also goes to show like these counterfeit manufacturers, they're getting smarter, but also it's like really, there's levels to it because it's quite risky to be putting out high-end replicas of things because first off, you are shipping thousands of a particular bag with LV logos all over it and whatnot. And if that gets stopped at customs and you don't have the right paperwork and you don't have the right X, Y, and Z, and, you know, that's really risky, especially when you've put so much money into making it to begin with. Might not be as much money as Louis Vuitton is, let's say, I don't know. But it's definitely, you're investing way more money to make these fakes than you are of like a shit fake, you know, like a really cheap, obvious that it's not real. And so I thought that was really interesting. But there was a similar one in 2012, and that was regarding Hermes. Have you heard of that one?
No.
Okay, so it was some time ago, and this operation was dismantled by the French police. And following an investigation, there were several members of Hermes store staff who were also let go of their job. I don't know if they were also arrested, but the value of sales of one of these branches of this particular Hermes ring was at 18 million euros, just one of these branches. And I think it was basically people who'd worked for Hermes were able to replicate authentic Hermes bags, you know what I mean? And sell them on, because Hermes bags, it's like $8,000 upwards, you know? And so the CEO at the time of Hermes came out and said that 80%, and now this is going to make you want to stop buying like anywhere on the internet, but it says 80% of objects sold on the internet under the Hermes name are fake.
Yeah, I think there's certain things, and actually, like, unless it's literally Vesta Collective, Farfetch, Net-a-Porter, Outnet, like, I want an in-store experience. Like, first of all, if I'm paying anything like $8,000 for a bag, I'm going in that store. I'm gonna know that it's real. Like, and also I think it happens, and it's really easy to happen when people, because Hermes create limited editions of a lot of their colors. So, and I'm kind of somebody that, like, I don't think I'd ever be like, no, I need that one. Like that one, or I would just wait for Hermes to have it in stock. But some people kind of don't have that patience, or like maybe that color's not going to come back in stock, or whatever. And I think that's then where, like, it plays into the hands of these counterfeiters that, you know, there's people with these needs, and you also can make really convincing fakes if you use a nice leather and all of that stuff. And also, like, yeah, if you've potentially been in the game, or you have someone who can tell you, actually, this is what we do to ensure, like, certain things, then of course you're going to be able to pull off a really convincing fake. And that the bare eye of most of us wouldn't probably be able to detect it.
Yeah. We've spoken about Hermes and how, like, their limited run and availability of their most famous bags contributes how highly valued they are. But it also can be to their detriment, because if someone knows that they don't have a good chance of going into the store and being able to order one or get their hands on one because, you know, of the politics of getting a Birkin or a Kelly or something, they're going to be like, well, why go through the store when I can get one from someone else who wants to sell it to me? And it might be £1,000 or £2,000 more expensive than what they paid for it, but at least I can get one. You know, I will.
Yeah, it creates this hunger in people that that then kind of means that they, I don't know, follow rash things. I mean, there are experts out there, I know, like, from different YouTubers that I've watched, like, they'll go to certain experts, or there are people who know their thing and what to look out for if you are buying certain bags. But yeah, I mean, it's so hard to know. It's so hard. And ultimately, I guess you never would. Like, if you ever buy anything secondhand, like on eBay or something, you'll never truly know. Do you know what I mean? Like, it could come with I don't know if I would ever truly know.
You know where you would know, I think, is if you're buying something from a big brand, but it's really like an old model, or it's in a really obscure style. It's probably like, if you know what the item is, it's probably going to be real. The fakes really do come with, like, the most popular styles in, like, the limited edition kind of collections and stuff. I think that there's a difference between, like, not so many vintage Dior bags, for example, are, like, being copied like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think
that could just be
luckily the vintage market is still relatively safe. I will say that it's a lot easier to sort of know and trust in what you're buying. But yeah, I sort of came across an article that was sort of detailing some they call it lateral thinking, some sort of like basically some sort of ideas where you can try and prevent people from doing the counterfeiting, from doing it.
Okay.
And one thing that they talked about was kind of, if you can't beat them, join them, and not in terms of counterfeiting, but Stella McCartney collaborated with The Real. So she at one point obviously identified that the reselling market is huge. And so she partnered with The Real in sending them some of her unused Stella McCartney pieces and like some vouchers to spend in the store. And I actually think that's kind of a great way of trying to do things, is collaborating with the resale market and trying to make it a safe place if somebody does want to invest in a Stella McCartney bag or whatever. And another is just to kind of really look go for your sustainability, because I think that's a real incentive for people at the moment. Is I think people care about what they're buying into, and I think if something's worth a lot of money, then they care about that side of things. But I think the ultimate thing, and I don't know about you, I'd be really interested to hear what you think, but I kind of just think if someone's going to buy a fake, they're going to buy a fake. Do you know what I mean? Like, you kind of either have a problem with it or you don't. And you're so right from what you said earlier, that I still hold that taboo of it. And I actually think, like, yeah, I would deem it a bit chavvy for me to have a fake. And I don't judge anyone who wants to, like, Christ, you don't have to spend £2,000 to impress me or anything like that. But more for myself, I associate it now with that culture that, like, I don't know, I just couldn't for myself. But I think there are people who, like, they're normal people. They're never going to spend £2,000 on a bag. So the only way they're going to own a Chanel is if they get it off the high street, like, marketplace.
Yeah, I think it's all about your confidence in yourself, in the sense of, okay, for example, there are people out there who feel that they need to be seen with designer stuff. Like, they need to be seen with that stuff. Otherwise, they're no one. Do you know what I mean? And there's a lot of people, like, say, in the media who are, like, performers or singers or rappers or TV presenters who live this seemingly, like, wealthy lifestyle, and we know that a lot of their cars are rented, and we know that their house is, like, leased out, and they don't actually own any of this stuff, but they want to put on this performance that they have head to toe, like, LV drip. But also it's probably borrowed for a photo shoot or just for a little bit, and then it's going to be sent back, like, so they're creating this lifestyle, and we know that there's, like, scammers online who's like, I'm a multi-millionaire, and they're not, and they're kind of curating a lifestyle. So you have those people. But then I think if you're someone who really doesn't believe that you'll ever get to the point that you'll ever be able to afford something like this, then you're like, balls to the wall, like, who cares? It's gonna buy a fake. But someone like, for example, you've been talking about a Chanel bag for 4 years now, probably the entire time I've ever known you, and you know that you'll get one day. There'll be a time, and you'll walk in and you'll get your bag. I mean, you've had proximity to owning designer things. It's not foreign to you, or what's the word, it's not a fantasy to you that you could have a few nice pieces, you know. For those who it's not on the cards for them, I can completely understand why you would buy into it, because we are also, we have a podcast, for Christ's sake, about things we'd like to buy. You know, like, we aren't immune to the desire of nice things, and we're just privileged enough to be like, no, I'll get that the legit way someday.
And maybe we won't, but like, there's something nice, and I think there is something nice about being, like, knowing that actually, like, well, I probably could put that aside and buy it even next year, but it's like, that's not sensible. That's not the right path for me right now. Kind of a thing. But also, I think, you're so right. It depends also what is important to you, because I think the luxury side of things is important to me. It always has been, and I always wanted to work in that side of things. I just appreciate nice things. I just love it. I just like when something's nice quality and someone's artisan sort of skills have gone into making it. But that also doesn't mean that I don't love a Zara haul. You know. And I probably buy stuff from Zara without realizing it's being ripped off a runway. Like, I'm sure of it.
Half my wardrobe. Phoebe Philo everything. Or something, you know what I mean? Like, that sort of influence to ordinary people like us. But it is really, I don't see it slowing down anytime soon, especially consider how important Counterfeit is to whole economies, let's be real, whole economies. Like you take Bangladesh, and a lot of their economy is based on the fashion industry, fast fashion, and just, you know, mid-range fashion as well. And so they're another place where a lot of counterfeit is increasingly being manufactured there. But then you're always going to have this like to and fro, because you have, on one hand, luxury is trying to sell us the fantasy of this is what you need, but also at the same time, not everyone can have that fantasy. They're almost like the gatekeepers of what is nice and what you should have and what you should be, you should have access to, let's say. But then when people, I guess, want to be part of that, they have to like clamp down on it. Like, no, this is not for you.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely like the designers will make it very much a status thing. And I also think that people need to be sometimes maybe a little bit wary of maybe less so influencers who we clearly know and well. But like if you are seeing people who are just sort of regular Joes, regular Davids, with designer bags, maybe don't assume it's always real. Do you know what I mean? Because actually, like where I live is very yummy mummy. And I do assume that all the bags I see are real. But I bet
yummy mummies are the worst.
I bet some of them aren't, because not all of them are footballers' wives, you know, like not all of them are the ones living in the mansions like a few miles away. Like some of them are just the regular people, and they probably can't afford that. But because of the location that I live in and the kind of like cultural sort of stay-at-home mum vibe that is in this area, I just assume it's a lot of things are real, and actually like probably not. And I don't think I would, if you turned up, maybe I would ask you, but like if maybe someone I wasn't so like good of friends with turned up with a Chanel bag, I wouldn't be like, is that real? I would just like, I would just assume it is unless they told me otherwise. And I remember a girl that we went to school with turned up to a party with red-soled shoes, and I was like, look at you with some Louboutins. And she's like, oh no, like they're not real. And like until someone tells you that, like you're never going to go, those can't be real. But you have to remember, like there's every likelihood that it might not be. And you just kind of got to remember that, I think, sometimes. I'm sure there's so many Instagrammers out there that are pretending that they've got some Balenciagas, like those sock shoes. They probably put their own little logo on, like styling up some stuff, and some fake Cartier bracelets, all of that stuff. And implying shots fired at me and my fake Cartier bracelets. I didn't even mention that. It's loud. But they're pretending, or they're implying it's real. You know, and I think it's really important. Oh my god, I was going to tell my little story about Cartier. Okay, go on. I mean, I gave you a glimpse of it last week then, behind studio doors. So I think this is a really good example of sort of how powerful fakes can be. So an old colleague of mine came to visit where I was still working there, but he used to work there, and he was coming to congratulate one of our managers for having a baby. And we were sat in the meeting room, and sort of the EA came in and was like, oh, check you out with your Cartier ring. You must be doing well. And he sort of was like, oh yeah, you know, just kind of like, it's all working out for me at the moment. Yeah, I'm really lucky. It's going really well, thanks. And sort of she leaves the room, and he turns to me and he's like, now Scarlett, this is a lesson. This other ring on my hand, which was his engagement ring, was like a beautiful, like handcrafted, had like a nice like stone. It's like, this is worth like £1,000. This is a ring I got off a market stall for £3. And just because it looks like the Cartier ring, like she's assumed that I'm balling, but actually it's probably my engagement ring that means like that is so much more like classy, but also worth so much more. And he was just like, the appearances that these things can bring are so like important. And he like gave me the ring, and he was like, this is so that you could always like live sort of this like fantasy or whatever he said to me. But it's so true. Like, she was so impressed with like, Cole, you must be doing well. Look at you with that Cartier ring.
It gave him status.
She like took him more seriously because he had it on. And actually his point was like, it shouldn't earn me anything, even if it is real. But like, you also haven't been able to identify the thing that's actually worth the money in the room. And yeah, like, it's just, you sometimes get a snapshot of somebody. Like, I definitely do this. If someone's wearing a Rolex, I'm like, Rolex? Yeah. But like, first of all, we mentioned it before, you might not be able to afford your Rolex, also might not be real. Like, but there are certain things that you associate with like typecasting somebody, and it could be a fake.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk to us about your Cartier jewelry? Has anyone ever thought your bracelet is real?
Okay, so I started looking for bangles that was in the Cartier style, but I wasn't looking for an actual fake. Yeah, it's just like gold bangle with maybe like a Swarovski moment in it, stainless steel, something like that, cheap, just because I wanted the look. Like, and you know me, I love jewelry.
You love jewelry.
Yeah, so it's always been like something I gravitate towards anyway. It's not me trying to be like basic, because let's be honest, Cartier bracelets, they are kind of basic. But yeah, so I wanted something in the style, and I just started buying different bangles from different sellers on eBay, because I was like, listen, this is £5. If it comes and it's terrible, it's not a big deal to me, you know. I'll wear it until it looks dead. So I bought one of the what are they called, like something on clay, the like the nail one. And so I bought one of those ones. It was terrible. It went funny colored as soon as I got it, pretty much. And then I bought like 4 or 5 other bangles, the one that is supposed to resemble the one that gets screwed on. Anyway, most of them were fine. And then the last one I ordered actually came with these 2 screws on either side. You had to screw it onto your wrist.
Like the love bracelet,
Yep, it came with the screwdriver in gold. On the inside, it actually has etched Cartier. I know. No. I didn't even realize. I bought it because I thought, oh, this looks like it could be a good quality, like stainless steel, whatever, that I could wear for a long time. But this one actually, like, I was like, this looks pretty legit. And me, just being a layperson, I don't have any Cartier. I was like, no one else is going to know this is fake. Like, in passing, like on my wrist, me just like talking to someone, they're never going to know that it's not real. And I told my sister to go and buy a couple because I was so convinced. And that's the thing, like, there are certain things that I just could not justify paying for. I'm not spending £6,000 on that bracelet when I know, like, I've got lots of jewelry. Some of it is cheap, some of it I've got for my birthday or whatever that is cheaper than that, still in gold, like solid gold, amazing pieces that I love to wear often. Some of this stuff is inflated. The price is just like crazy for what it is, I think. And it's like, I'm never going to buy something as expensive as a Cartier love bracelet, which is actually quite basic. And when I mean basic, I mean like it's the thing that everyone wants to get, you know. Not that it's not nice, but it's very popular. And I'd rather spend like $6,000-7,000 on a brace, on, you know, the amount that it would cost me on something that's a bit more like unique, hard to find, different,
not something that loads of people have on their wrist already.
So that I do have a piece of I am part of the problem, guys.
It's okay. We all are. I think we all are. But I think, like, my takeaway is you've got to be so careful of the expensive fakes. Like that's kind of the real, like, the real danger is the fact that they might not be monitored and all of that stuff, but also, like, you're then paying a hell of a lot of money for something that's not actually from those brands. Because sometimes it's really easy, and we all get desensitized from, like, why the hell is a Chanel handbag like £4,000?
It's actually more expensive. That they're like the classic flaps are like, what, £8,000 now, £7,000 depending on the size.
But like, why on earth is a handbag that? Even like the Louis Vuitton Neverfalls have gone up. Like they used to be about like 500 quid and they're now about £1,000. You're like, for a canvas bag, like a coated canvas bag with a leather trim. Like, are you serious? Like, I could get the leather and probably make it myself for less, for sure.
There are lots of brands that I have like a leather tote, 100% leather tote, and I pay.
Even like Topshop and Zara often do like leather. Like I used to buy the like genuine leather bags from Topshop, and I used to love them.
Yeah.
Like you can definitely obviously get nice bags, and we somehow seem to find it acceptable, but there is no way in hell I would think it's acceptable, even if it was genuine leather from someone that wasn't Louis Vuitton or whatever. Like, and that there's something really weird about that. I don't know why, because if you're willing to pay it for somebody else, but I think you do have to be careful because sometimes it's expensive and it's not the quality that you deserve.
Yeah. Wow, guys, I've got nothing else to add really when it comes to counterfeits and fakes, other than I am
watch yourself.
A fake.
I've got fake nails, and me too.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks for listening, guys. I hope you like this episode. I thought it was a good one. It's really exposed us.
Yeah, it has exposed us. And hey, let us know what your guys' fakes are that you have, or what, a bit like with the Cartier bracelet, what would you never pay full price for?
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think that's what would you never pay full price for other than the Cartier
love bracelet? Well, I never pay full price for. I can't see myself buying like the MS stuff. Like, don't get me wrong. If I won the lottery, we've discussed this before. If I won like Euro Millions or something like that, then I'm just going to be obnoxious with it. I might just buy a Birkin, see what the fuss is about. But I could spend so much money. I could spend that money elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I also think that there are some really great designs from other luxury brands which are just a lot cheaper. Like, I have my eye on the Valentino bag because it's a lot cheaper than a very similar option to the Chanel. And I'm like, it's half the price.
Valentino starting to want to be like identified as Valentino Garavani. Have you seen?
No, I didn't, but that is his real name.
Yeah, but it's like like now sort of like I'm starting to see everywhere that like on Net-a-Porter it's now called Valentino Garavani.
Oh, okay.
And I was like,
I thought that was like for most of the older stuff, like the vintage stuff.
I don't know. It was for like rock studs, so I don't know if it's for certain items or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I'm the same with the Hermes. I think part of me can't even justify it with Chanel, for sure, because especially like you said, the prices just go up every year and they're just kind of becoming crazy.
By the time you can afford it, it's like $5,000 more expensive.
So when we were younger, they were probably about like 1,500, 2,000, and they kind of go up a couple £100 every year. But yeah, I think Hermes, it's too much, and like so much could be bought with that. And like, let's be honest, if I can buy an Hermes, I should probably save a bit more money and get a second house or something.
It's just deposit, isn't it?
Yeah, like I could get myself like a home in the sun with like that deposit. So I think that's where my boring, sensible nature will stop me ever owning a Birkin. But I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
We'll get a fake.
Anyway, on that note, thanks again for listening, guys. That's going to be our question for this week. And go on our Instagram and leave some comments.